down on the 8. In trouble. Got a block behind him. Gonna throw and a run. Complete to the 25, to the 30. Lindsey's got 35, 40. Lindsey's got 45, 50, 45, 40. Run, Lindsey. 25, 20, 50, 10, 5. Lindsey's got. Lindsey's got. Lindsey's got.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Dogs Down South. It is Wednesday night. Man, tonight is a little bit more exciting than normal because we can feel football right around the corner. It's been a long 2 months, it feels like. And so I can tell you that tonight's show will have a little bit more spunk to it because we can smell the grass for spring ball. So we're going to get into that, though. We're going to get into some news going around Athens and Georgia football. We're going to talk a little bit of outside of Georgia football tonight. We're going to do a little bit of everything tonight. As always, I do have somebody here with me tonight to hang out. We bring on Mr. Adam Fisher. What's up, Adam? How are you, man? Turn your mic on.
What's up, man?
There he is. What's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you, man?
I am great, man. I am great. It's good to have you tonight, man, hanging out. The fish man himself. If everybody doesn't remember this story about myself and Adam, Adam was probably the main reason, him and his family, why I am a Georgia Bulldog faithful to this day. Took me to my first Georgia game. Him and his family did. We used to hang out. We didn't watch much of the Georgia game, but, the atmosphere, Sanford Stadium, the hedges, throwing the football by the tailgate. I don't think we understood the pageantry of college football and Georgia football, that is, until probably the last maybe 10, 15 years or so, I would say for myself. But yeah. How things up in Savannah for you, Fish?
Good. Hot. Sand gnats are out. Trying to carry all of us away.
Sand gnats.
Sand gnats are bad.
What's
I
a
think
sand
they eat
gnat?
mosquitoes. I don't know. They're brutal.
Like, what in the world's a sand gnat, bro?
It's a little bitty tiny thing. It's really annoying. You can hardly see it, but they bite. You know it when they're on you because they bite and they're relentless.
Bro, that's called a mosquito. No, you're right there.
No, these things are mosquitoes, bro. I'm telling you.
We don't have those. I told you, man, like last show, man, we don't have those problems in Florida, bro. We just got lack of sunshine. We're counting down the days until March 9th when the time rolls back and we get that hour of daylight that Florida so deserves to be able to enjoy the beach a little bit while longer. But I enjoyed it when I was in Georgia as well because I hate to say it, man, the days just feel so short. It's like you just don't have enough time in the day, man, before the end of the day, and it's like it's already dark, and you're like, all right, just go to bed, start it all over tomorrow. So, nuts, man. Well, let's hop right in tonight. There's a lot to talk about, and as I said, it's just a fresher show tonight because, because March 12th is around the corner, man. We can feel it. We are so close to March. March 12th is important. Fish, do you know why March 12th is important?
Why is March 12th important?
This was prompted. March 12th is important, man, because Georgia opens spring practice March 12th, man. And, dude, it's been 2 months. It's been too long. I mean, last show we talked about the top 25 players in NCAA college football 25. We rated them. I mean, was it the funnest thing to do ever? I mean, yeah, it was, man, because we're excited for this football game. But, man, we'd much rather be talking about, wins, no losses. But then, another important day around that corner after 5 weeks, we get to G-Day, which is April 13th, where we get to see what all this new talent, all this new coaching, and all these players that have gone through the off-season strength and conditioning program and grown in the program in the past 2 to 3 months look like live again. And so that's super cool. Then following that on the next day, which is March 13th of opening spring practice, we have our pro day. So we'll have a lot of NFL scouts in Athens on campus, being able to look at some of the guys that are just trying to get their last looks that were maybe not invited to the combine. I know some of our guys are choosing to do their pro day stuff at their home campus, which obviously they just a little less jittery, a little less nerves, just kind of feel at home, have a better So, but Fish, how excited are you, man? How excited are you for spring football and G Day around the corner?
Dude, I'm pumped, super pumped. It's awesome. It just means we're getting closer and closer and closer. I mean, I know just a couple of months ago, we're only a couple of months out of the season, but still, just can't wait to get back into it.
What are you most excited to see at G Day?
Our offense. Definitely our offense. Our defense is going to look good. We know what to expect from them. We know pretty much what we're going to get from them, year to year. But our offense this year has a lot of big play potential.
Yeah.
I
agree.
A lot of points, put up a lot of yards. Yeah, maybe even have a couple of Heisman candidates on our offense right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm excited to see the offense. Hey, if you're joining right now, you want to hop in the chat and tell us what you're most excited about for G Day. Chime in. I'd love to hear it. I agree, Fish. Offense is going to be huge. There's Bobby Rouse. What's up, my dude? So, man, the offense, let me tell you what I would love to see. I would love to see them put our receivers. I would like to see them balance them out on both red and the black squad, and so we can see the most of the talent that we have at the wide receiver position. I mean, of course, don't get me wrong. I'm excited to see Trevor Etienne. I'm excited to see the line. I'm excited to see Carson throw it a little bit. Gunner. I'm excited to see Puglisi. Maybe he's on that black squad, and you get to see a little bit more of him.
He'll get some
I'm excited to see the defense. I'm excited to see Ellis Robinson and Bolden. But man, what I'm most excited to see is the number of wide receivers that are in this room that are game-changing wide receivers. I think we should throw the ball 150 times that day, just so when people watch this spring tape, they're like, I don't know who to cover this coming season. Like if you're pulling the tape and you're Clemson, I mean, for me, I'm throwing the ball 150 times and scaring the absolute crap out of Dabo Swinney from this G-Day game. So excited. Bobby's not with us tonight, man. Bobby Rouse is usually on with us live tonight. Has speaking engagement tonight in Nashville. He's in enemy grounds up near Knoxville. Not near Knoxville, but he's in that area, man. It's all enemy grounds once you cross the line. Yeah. So he's saying hi. What's up, Bobby? How you doing, man? So obviously, Fish, we could spend a whole lot of time on G-Day. But just the excitement, smelling the grass. We're gonna have some football. They're gonna spread. I think it's 16 to 17 practices over 5 weeks. So it's not one of those daily grinds. Back in high school when it was like spring ball, it was like 2 weeks every day, grind it out. It's more spread out. There's things in between. They're also they're putting in offense stuff. They're putting in defense stuff. They're going to be jam-packed and learning a lot in that window of opportunity to get with players and coach players for 5 weeks. So it's going to be great. And like I said, I think we might do something. We might do something on here. We might go live during the spring game, man. We might get the game on, maybe behind somebody, and maybe we just talk through the game. I think that'd be really cool. That'd be really cool. Tell me really quick, Fish, what do you think about? So obviously, we talked about Brian McClendon a little bit last week, obviously, but since then, Brian McClendon obviously went to the Bucs. He's going to be the wide receiver coach for the Bucs. And then we did not have that hire. We talked about who we thought it would be. I talked about who I wanted to be. I even went and posted a couple of times who I thought it would be. And it was not, but some people will like this hire. Some people might not like this hire, but let's go to this one first. So obviously a familiar face, James Coley, is going to be taking over at the wide receiver coaching position for Brian McClendon. What do you like about that hire, and what do you hate about that hire?
I guess it's not the big name, that we had talked about, that we were hoping for, like a Hans Ward or somebody like that. But, I hear he's a good recruiter. He's familiar with Georgia. He's coached in Georgia before. And really, we need him to be recruiting more than we need him to be coaching. I feel like that's like, him and Josh Crawford. I think they're both maybe better recruiters and familiar with Georgia than maybe they are coaches. Like, X's and O's.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree that we talked about it last week. We said the footprint of what those two position coaches have been in the past. I mean, maybe our listeners would agree. I don't know if Brian McClendon and Dale McGee's footprint is more impactful in the recruiting area or in the coaching area, because I'll be honest with you, Dale McGee, and we'll get to him in a second, but Brian McClendon, I think, was more of I think he did a really great job in developing our receivers that, came in, maybe not had enough stars behind their name, but you got to give Brian McClendon some props because, the Lad McConkeys, you can go back to his footprint on, I look at, he went to the Titans last year. I don't know how I can not remember this. He was with us for almost 4 or 5 years. But basically, when I look at Brian McClendon, I look at a person that's done a lot with a little. And I'm not saying that these players aren't good players. I'm just saying the development process we've had with wide receivers has been very evident in his time here. So kudos to Brian McClendon in that area. But obviously, the recruiting footprint for wide receivers, honestly, some people could say has not been there since James Coley was once here, right? Because James Coley was here, and he worked with Kirby. He ran the offense for a year or two. And actually, James Coley was the last wide receiver coach to land a 5-star wide receiver at Georgia. That was George Pickens. And so that's, it's crucial that you said that because, but I also have heard from Kirby in his statement when James Coley was hired, he was like, it's familiar, it's easy transition. And number 3, he has roots in South Florida, and he's a great teacher. He's a great teacher and motivator. So I would beg to say that, like, he might check off 2 boxes for us, whereas I think McClendon wasn't as known as much for the recruiting aspect, but was for the development. James Coley might check off 2 boxes. It wasn't the hire we wanted, but was it the hire that maybe would you agree that maybe it was the hire that we just needed at this time in late in the game?
I mean, Kirby knows what he's doing, far be it from me to question him. I have a lot of opinions, but he knows what he's doing, like, especially like Stetson getting all that playing time, that first championship run. I was mad every Saturday because I was not a Stetson Bennett fan until after the championship game.
Yeah, and he
proved a lot that game, especially after that fumble, that crazy fumble over there on the sideline. He took it upon himself to put us back in that game and give us a chance to win. So, got to trust Kirby. He knows what he's doing.
Right. I would even make the difference to say that, like, there weren't many people out there. There weren't many dog fans out there that could say they were 100% pro Stetson Bennett. I mean, I was at the game. I was at the South Carolina game.
Were now.
Yeah. No. I was at the South Carolina game when JT got pulled, and Stetson's in there, and I'm like, what? What? And at the time, I just don't. We don't see what Kirby and the coaches see. I mean, obviously, Kirby comes from a background of Nick Saban, and you get 10 minutes to walk into practice if you're a reporter, and you get to look for about 10 minutes, and then you're out. You're out of there. So coaches only pretty much see what, is going to happen on Saturdays. And so obviously all of them knew Stetson had it in him to lead that team and lead that offense.
Yeah. He had the team support too, which is crucial. I mean, and they rallied behind him too. I mean, they knew he was capable.
Yeah.
Like, they obviously knew what we didn't.
Right.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah,
I'll
definitely
admit I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think James Coley was a solid hire. I mean, we can't really go. I don't think we can go wrong with this one now. If we're talking about an offensive coordinator hire, of course, I don't think Kirby would go back in there. It just wasn't a good fit. I think Coley has gone places and he's called plays, and we've seen that some people are cut out to be game managers and call plays and play checkers and chess. Some people are really cut out to teach and recruit, and they're a good, great name for the university. And I think James Coley is a good, great name to represent the university well on the road to recruitment. And I think he's going to be great for teaching X's and O's and things that young receivers can do to be better receivers every day. And if anything, it's like Kirby said, it was a safe transition, and we don't really need a splash transition there. I mean, would Jimmy Williams have been great? Yeah, he would have been a splash, but I don't think we were looking for our next head coach or next offensive coordinator in that pick. Whereas maybe when you look at how Travis Robinson came into play, I think that was very calculated because Schumann is obviously a very hot commodity, a very incredible defensive coach who has a future in head coaching at the college football level. So it's not, he is the next Dan Lanning. I mean, he's the next Dan Lanning.
Still there, honestly.
Right. So that is that's a very calculated, smart hire by Kirby. So, but then let's shift gears. So Del McGee. Now, you guys were the one, our group chat where you guys sent the Del McGee thing that's the one where I looked and I was like, oh man, it would be very just selfish of me to be like, not Del, because he's been there with Kirby the longest, 8 years with Kirby. Some people can argue that like, where was you look at Sony and you look at Nick and you look at some of the, but a lot of people are arguing like, where was the actual development of those running backs? And he maybe recruited great talent, but have we ever had? And it's a very the word for it is naive thing to say. The reason we haven't had 1,000-yard rusher since I think I talked about this a while back. DeAndre Swift, their last 1,000-yard rusher, is because we haven't had to. Like we haven't had to. Now last year we were hit with injuries, so that was a reason why. Could Kendall or Dejon, if they went injury free last year, could they have chalked off 1,000? Maybe if one of them would have been clearly healthy and one of them would have been clearly hurt, maybe. Yeah. But we haven't had to have 1,000-yard rusher in the last, 5-6 seasons. So I don't think you can chalk that up. But what do you think about Josh Crawford and the Del McGee thing? I mean, number one, bravo to Del McGee. I'm so proud. I'm so glad that he stayed in Georgia State. He's putting together a really great staff. But what did you think about the Josh Crawford hire and losing Del McGee?
I mean, losing Del McGee is going to be, bad, no matter how you look at it. But, the hire, Josh Crawford, like I said, I think that's a good one. I think he's a good recruiter, motivator, and I think that's what Kirby wants. I don't know much about his coaching, ability or, his past a lot, honestly. But, I have heard a lot of good things about him, like a lot of good things about him. So, I mean, I'm not really worried too much.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know Josh Crawford on the college level, but he's very well known for the past 10 years at the high school level. He's coached in the Atlanta area, Greater Atlanta Christian, Valdosta. He was there. A name that you might know is Tate Rodemaker from Valdosta, who went to Florida State. Yeah. Weird scenario, man. Takes over for Jordan Travis. Has a decent year, and then disappears off the scene and goes into the portal. That's a whole other show, but I don't even know where this Tate Rodemaker went. But I venture back to say that some of the years that he had great, like record-setting years as a quarterback at Valdosta, Josh Crawford was calling the plays. So he's very well known in the state for Georgia, in the state of Georgia. Obviously, that's where the recruiting footprint is. Kirby is going to always do his best to own the state of Georgia in recruiting. And so what better of a way to do it than to, I think he has a lot of upside. I think it's something that could be a Del McGee down the road. And I think Josh Crawford wants to be at Georgia. He did his undergrad work at Georgia. It's the next step for Josh Crawford. And I don't know about you, but Tech had some really good things they were doing this year with Brett Key over there. And a lot of it was due to some of these younger coordinators that you were talking about. You were telling me about during the game. What do you think about? I mean, what do you think about that footprint of Tech? And like, just as Brent Key's getting going, we scoop out Crawford out from under him. What do you think about that?
I think just reload. I think he's a good coach, and I think he's.
Yeah.
It's kind of we're going to miss those Paul Johnson days.
Yeah.
As Georgia fans.
Yeah.
I think we are,
Yeah.
because I mean Tech's going to be. They're on the rise, which is obvious from last year. And he's got them heading in the right direction. And, if he wants to keep popping up good coaches and getting them ready for us, then let's do it.
I agree. I saw sidebar. I saw a little conversation on Tech. Paul Johnson finally got interviewed about Jeff Collins. Paul Johnson retiring after Tech and everything. And, apparently Jeff Collins went in there and drug Paul Johnson through the mud, man. Like, he just told him he never recruited. He didn't have any passion for the team. And, if I beg to differ, man, Jeff Collins probably was the main reason Tech has hit the all-time low. I mean, talk about dragging a team down. I mean, maybe the guy can coach defense. We'll see if that's his forte at North Carolina this year. But I could, for one time in my life, and I didn't like Paul Johnson because I hated the fact that we always had to put a bye before Tech to play him, because you had to completely shift your mindset around, defensive mind to go, hey, like, now I gotta sit here and cover chop blocks, and I gotta see which of the 5 people that could possibly get the ball handed off to him actually has the ball. And 9 times out of 10, it was the quarterback doing the most easiest of. It was brilliant, man. Paul Johnson will always be known for one of the best minds around the option in the history of college football, in my opinion. But I definitely think Georgia Tech is in good hands with Brent Key, and so we did scoop up a good one from him. So I think we did what we could do in those areas. I think those were solid hires, and I think we should be very excited about adding those additions to the offensive staff.
Or at the very least, not worried.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think we're good.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not gonna. I don't know if you're. Kirby said it in his press conference. I think he said it, but he didn't say it. You're not out to make a splash. It's not like the head coaching job. It's not like it's like, well, did you get, like, I thought, Del McGee, I thought he made some splash hires. Like Del McGee is going to be a great coach, man. He goes out, and do these names resonate with Georgia? Maybe one of them, but the other one might resonate in the wrong way. But like, he goes out and hires Jim Chaney to run the offense. We all remember Chaney. He had some ups and downs with us, some good years, some bad years, some good games, some bad games. Some people may hate him, but I think the guy's got a mind built around X's and O's on the offensive side. And then he went and got Kevin Shearer, which is another guy he worked with at Georgia. He coached inside linebackers to run the defense. So right there alone, that 3-headed monster right there is more than Georgia State's ever had, in my opinion, as far as football knowledge. So obviously they gave him a budget. Obviously they're trying to get Georgia State to the next level and not make them. I mean, that was a weird, sticky situation that Dell's walking into, because they had started spring ball. They had started it. And so 2 days into spring ball, you're like, I'm out. And it wasn't like he took a head coaching position. If I'm not mistaken, he went NFL, right? I don't even know the coach's name that was at Georgia State, but he went. Did he go? No. He went back to South Carolina. That's where he went. He was at South Carolina before, and he went back to coach at South Carolina, which was a weird move, right? But weird all around. Any final things you want to add about the 2 hires? I think they're solid hires. I think they're good. We got good people, and they're going to get as much from being on this coaching staff as we will get from them.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm good. Good to go. And Kirby, I trust. I know we run that into the ground, but I have faith.
Yeah, man. So let's sidebar a little bit. Let's talk about somebody who has been kind of off the radar. So London Humphreys, man, nobody's talking much about London Humphreys. He's one of my favorite portal gets. I call him my gets. Now, I'll tell you, I told you which one was on the defense for me. That's Jake Pope. But London Humphreys is kind of one of my kind of cool moments of my portal gets, because London Humphreys adds that speed / size. And somebody finally hit the nail on the head on I want to say it was a week ago on Paul Feinbaum around this, but they said, that they looked at Humphreys and they said, was Humphreys kind of that? Everybody wants to attribute it to this, but was Humphreys kind of that Brock Bowers type situation where they're like, oh man, speed, height, toughness. The guy is definitely a different style receiver. If you remember correctly, last year he scored the first touchdown against us at the Vanderbilt game, and it was out of nowhere, man. Like he caught a ball, and I haven't seen a Vanderbilt player run that fast in 10 years. So what do you Fish? What do you know? How excited? Like, are you relevant with what London Humphreys can bring to us and speak to it a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, he's got good size. He's 6'3", I think, about 190.
Right.
Like 4.4 speed, which is a burner, which is really fast, So, no. I mean, I know that he probably got underfed the ball at Vandy, which probably had a lot to do with him leaving. I think in the first game of the season, he had like 5 catches for over 100 yards. Then he finished the season with 22 catches and like 450.
Yeah.
So, you have a game like that when you bust onto the scene and then they don't give you the rock, Vandy might have come out with a W in a couple more of those games had they passed him the ball a little bit more. Maybe they just didn't know what they had. But shoot, I'll be glad to have him. He's definitely a playmaker.
Yeah, I think what happened with Vandy towards the end of the year is they had to go to more of a what's going to put points on the board type offense. And you saw a lot more run plays called. And I'll tell you what really strikes me about London Humphreys is, I think you just called his stats out. So he was close to that 500-yard echelon of this year of catches, yards. But can you imagine the quarterback play at Vanderbilt? And if we were to rank quarterbacks right now in the SEC, I can tell you right now, number one, no quarterback that was in that room last year for Vandy is there this year. They're relying on a transfer quarterback this year out of New Mexico State, I think. It's not a good look. I would say the worst quarterback room in the SEC coming into this year is going to be Vanderbilt, right? So what am I trying to get there? The key was if London Humphreys can get 500 yards receiving from the absolutely abysmal accuracy of the quarterbacks that Vanderbilt had last year, what can London Humphreys do with Carson?
He got all his yards at the beginning of the season. Like Vandy didn't finish the season with the same guy that started the season. Remember, we were big on what's his name, the guy who started the season. And
he's at LSU this year, right? He's at LSU, right?
Yeah. So that's why they changed their play style and all that stuff. I mean,
AJ Swan. Yeah. And then AJ was like, I'm out. They lost every quarterback they had. Starter went to Colorado. AJ Swan went to LSU, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Left that room in shambles, which, what do you do, man? I don't know that anybody's out there just chomping at the bit to take the Vandy job. So Clark Lee is like, he's safe.
I like Clark Lee, man. Like, I want Vandy to be good. I like Vandy. I do. Yeah. And maybe it's because they never beat us. That might have something to do with it. Because
they are good. They're good at baseball. They're good at baseball, bro. Everybody's got to have something. I mean, we're abysmal in basketball right now. So,
my God.
We're abysmal in basketball.
Just dropped the proverbial ball. I mean, just God.
It's not a good look, man. It's not a good look. Yeah. We could do a whole podcast on basketball, bro, but
we should.
Yeah, we should. But like I'll tell you what I like about London Humphreys too is, so you look at the style of the receivers we have. We're everywhere, man. We are everywhere with speed. You got small shiftiness with Dom Lovett. Are you gonna? I'll hold off on that one really quick. But you look at Young that comes in. You look at Ra that comes in. You look at my man Dylan Bell that's coming. I mean, dude, the receivers room is loaded, and I didn't name but half of them right there. There's so much good happening in the wide receiver room. We're not sponsored by Coca-Cola or Red Bull or anything, so hopefully we don't get taken off for that. No, it's good. That's what cracked. Dude, what I'm looking at is you said it earlier, 6'3". He's the guy that might take a little bit of the weight off of that, because we lined up Brock in the slot last year. We lined him up out wide. We put him in the backfield a little bit. I think you might see Humphreys. You're not going to see Oscar Delp. You're not going to see any of our tight ends be able to take on that kind of role this year. And Pierce Spurlin's going to have to get in the weight room. I want to see what Pierce Spurlin looks like at G Day, and that will tell the tape on whether he's in the portal next year. But I do think that when you look at that, London Humphreys could be that type of guy that gives us that vibe of moving somebody around that can do a little bit of everything. And I know Todd Monken loved that, and I know that one reason why Bobo has been so successful is taking what Bobo knows and likes to do and taking the scheme of Monken when he was with him for a year, where Monken is like, hey, you can have a great playbook, but the playbook doesn't work if you're not getting the playmakers the ball. It doesn't work because you're calling plays, but you're not thinking about how the plays enter into the fact that we got to score points to win, right?
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how Bobo will think through utilizing London Humphreys, and I'm super excited.
I think our scheme is why Brock Bowers was Brock Bowers. Honestly, Monken, drawing up plays for him, sweeps and stuff like that. Maybe a direct snap here and there, something like that. I mean, they got that man the ball, and he was our guy. And the first half against Auburn last year, even Brock had just a couple of touches, and in the second half, fourth quarter, that man took over because they started feeding him the rock.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Auburn got a little lackadaisical as well. And we're getting very close to a few months. We'll do a big SEC preview. I think that'll be really cool to see what we're, after G Day, after the portal's over, and we see. I really don't want to have another portal conversation again. I can't have too many more portal conversations.
I know. My heart can't take it.
Yeah, I think I can't take it. Not even I'm concerned about our players leaving for the portal. It's just like, dude, how long can we talk about the portal? But so in closing,
twice a year, apparently.
What's that?
Twice a year.
Yeah, and every time a coach leaves, and you got to add 30 more days to it. It's crazy,
yeah, I know,
man.
Right?
So it's like Kirby can wake up tomorrow and an SEC coach leaves, and he's like, "Oh, well, here we are again. 30 more days. Let's see Let's see what happens." It's just so. It's got to change, dude. But we've beat that in the ground too.
Whole another day.
But London Humphreys, man, I have him on here tonight because I think he's that diamond in the rough. I think between him, I'm excited to see Young. Young's a big kid, man. Calvin Johnson type stature. I'm just, man, G Day is going to be on rewind. And I'm hoping that obviously I'm hoping that we look good, but I think we will. But I'm hoping that we get to see all these receivers in and see exactly who's
going to throw for 500 each.
You're right, man. And I will tell you what else will happen. It's gonna bring the best out of some of these receivers.
It's a competition for sure.
Yeah, and the drops and the lackadaisical route running and things of that nature. That wide receiver room is too deep and too talented this year to hide
you're
anybody.
Dropping balls, you're not playing.
No, you're not. And that's good because healthy competition is what's made Georgia.
Better.
Yeah, it's what's made Georgia who they are, and it's what makes Kirby so good at what he does. Because that's why, as soon as a James Dumas Johnson is out, a C.J. Allen appears. And Kirby said it. They were always good. They just didn't have a chance to show it. I mean, at that time there was a proven person in there. So that's a good problem to have. So, let's step outside of college. Let's have some fun tonight. Let's step outside of not college football, but let's step outside of Georgia football for a little bit and talk about some things that might pertain to it. Always stir a little fun in there. But I got a couple of questions. These came out on ESPN, Fox Sports, and a couple of mailbags for a couple of different podcasts that I follow. And so I thought they'd be interesting to kind of talk about. We'll give our take on it, but I'll throw this one out there first. One thing that let's hop on Alabama real quick. One cool thing that I heard today, and they're already the Alabama faithful is already starting to find things they don't like about Kalen DeBoer. So obviously it breaks yesterday or today that Kalen DeBoer has already squashed one of Nick Saban's prime things that he had into place, and that was he's now going to allow coaches to be accessible to the media throughout the entire year. He's also going to allow media in at different parts of practice, whether it's the beginning, whether it's the middle, whether it's the end. Whereas Nick Saban had a rule that was if you were one of his assistants, if you were not Nick Saban, you were not talking to the media during the regular season. He would allow it a little bit in bowl season and things of that nature, sparingly. But if you were during the year, you did not talk to the media. It was his thing, and you did not come into practices, but maybe, and that's where him and Kirby probably see eye to eye. 5-10 minutes of the practice you could be in there, and then some days he was like, I don't even want you in there. But so Kalen DeBoer comes out and says, I'm scratching that. That's not who I am. That's not. I mean, he's automatically coming out and saying this is another way I'm going to kind of put my footprint on Alabama. And so you like that, Fish, or no? Or what do you think about that kind of first? That's kind of his first big decision to take the stamp off of the Nick Saban era at Alabama. And
imagine the cojones he has to have to make big, drastic changes like that, at the risk of upsetting, the Bama faithful.
I wonder if he's got to email Saban. I wonder if he has to get like a check yes or no.
Hey, do you think I should do this? Do you think it would
check yes or no?
And I believe Saban would tell him to be his own coach and make his own decisions. And, you know what's good for you. You know what you like. I mean, it was obviously that way in Washington, So, I mean, this isn't like he's just taking a shot in the dark and saying, all right, I'm just going to do this because I want to be different. I want to take, slowly get rid of Nick Saban's footprint on Alabama football, which I'm sure he doesn't want to do. But maybe he does. Maybe he wants to make it his own. Maybe he's not a puppet. And maybe Bama fans were hoping somebody would come in there and just take the blueprint and run with it.
Yeah.
But, this man obviously has different things in mind, which I think is not terrible, but I'm glad I'm not an Alabama fan.
Yeah. And, there's two questions that have already been posed about Kalen DeBoer, and that is, I'll give you two scenarios. One that I've seen in our question that we're going to ask, but another that I've seen that I'll throw this out and let you tag the bait on this right here. But Paul Feinbaum came out a couple days ago and on his show, and he said what we may have to worry about and what the Alabama faithful need to worry about is Kalen DeBoer one and done at Alabama. And that kind of, the reason I say that is because it poses the question, like, does Alabama see, is there 4 teams in the playoff this year and Alabama possibly not one of them? What do you think? And if so, we can go back and forth. Who do you think the 4 teams from the SEC would be without Alabama in there? I'll go first. You fill in. Let's see who we think if combined. You'll take 2. I'll take 2. So my number. So I'll take Georgia. I think Georgia's in. Who you got from the SEC next?
Mizzou.
I like Mizzou. I have Ole Miss. Will be my 3rd. Who else?
Definitely Ole Miss. Nobody from the East. I guarantee you that. Probably LSU, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's LSU because if LSU gets Alabama in Death Valley this year, I think. Let me make sure I get that right. But my question is that's a scenario that gets Alabama. They're out of the playoff, and they're 5th, man. And that could be. And Paul Feinbaum saying that might be enough for one and done for Caleb DeBoer. What do you think?
Is it going to be about him? If you think they'll fire him after 1 year, is that what you're asking me?
Yeah,
like playoff or bust for him.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Could be. I mean, they like to win, and now more than ever, winning is everything. So, that's pretty drastic, but maybe. I mean, it would not surprise me.
I mean, it could happen. This isn't your typical scenario with filling a coach. Number one, Kalen DeBoer didn't walk into something he had to rebuild, right? So, and that's what Paul Feinbaum's saying. He's saying
he got the reason why.
Yes, which is very tricky. Which I actually kind of tuned my ear in to what Feinbaum was saying, because he's like, the reason I'm saying this is because some coaches are like, let's just say, like, I don't know, let's say Napier at Florida, right? He's got to come in and clean up some mess. He's got to recruit. He's got to put his own footprint on Florida, and he's got to get them going the right direction to try to win an SEC championship and win a national championship. However, Kalen DeBoer
replace Urban Meyer.
What's that?
I said Florida's still trying to replace Urban Meyer.
Yeah, well, Urban Meyer is still trying to probably look back and go, why? I think Urban Meyer is going, why in the heck did I ever leave Florida? Right? And I'm not saying Florida's a dream job. I mean,
No.
You look back in the day, I mean, people would have said that. I mean, everybody was, I mean, you say that to some of the people that have come through Florida since then, right? But
well, they were the dynasty before Bama.
Yeah, but was it the job everybody would have drooled over to go get?
Maybe replacing Spurrier, maybe right after Spurrier, but no, I don't think so.
Yeah, well, that's probably why you get what you got after Spurrier, which was nobody wanted to replace him. Which I might add, if you look at the past, five coaches at Florida, who was the worst? Who was our guy after Spurrier?
Oh God, it's got to be what's his name?
I hate that I don't even know this. This is
Georgia Ron Zook. Ron Zook was terrible.
Zook was after Spurrier.
Was Zook the immediate after?
Yeah, Zook was after Spurrier.
Okay, all right.
It was Zook. Then Zook went out for Mississippi State. Who
was the guy between Zook and Muschamp? Or not Muschamp, but
it was.
I feel like as Georgia fans, we should know this.
Yeah, man. No, we shouldn't, because at the end of the day, man, we know Georgia stuff.
Exactly.
But here's my thing. I'm saying all that to say is he followed Spurrier, which in Dan. He followed Spurrier. So, like, is that what DeBoer is doing at Alabama, following Saban? Because you could anything you hear about Florida, anything big decision wise, you hear Spurrier. Spurrier thinks this. Spurrier thinks that. Spurrier still hung the moon. I just typed in Florida football coaches. The first coach that comes up, which one do you think it was? Steve Spurrier.
Not Billy Napier. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Billy Napier. So my thing is this: if we ever thought that Alabama could have a one and done, it could be Caleb DeBoer. Does it have the chance? I don't know. I don't really know, because I don't know Caleb DeBoer, and I don't know what his offensive scheme will look like against an SEC team. Yeah, we
don't even know how great a coach he is. I mean, was last year more about the guys he had, the best wide receiver room in the nation? You know, Michael Penix Jr., a Heisman finalist. You know, I mean, it's hard not to win with that, right?
Yeah.
You know? And he's not going to have that this year.
Yeah, I totally botched this, by the way. It was. So it's Spurrier, then Zook. Yeah. Now, the long line after Zook was Charlie Strong, then Urban. We were talking about Urban, or were you talking about Spurrier? We were talking about Spurrier. So it was Zook after Spurrier. It was Will Muschamp after Urban. And then McElwain, Randy Shannon. Oh, my God. You remember when Randy Shannon was at Florida?
Yeah,
Dan Mullen.
Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen. I was thinking about.
Yeah, Billy Napier. Obviously, they have interim coaches in here. But needless to say, I pulled this schedule. So let's see if we can support or not support this statement on Alabama's record. So when you look at Western Kentucky's a win, South Florida's a win.
All day.
At Wisconsin?
That's when we're really going to find out who they are, and we're going to know what we're getting ourselves into when we have to go to Tuscaloosa. Yeah. We'll learn a lot about Bama when they have to go all the way up to Wisconsin.
You got to go to Wisconsin, man, and it's already a little chilly up there around September 14th. Oh, man, that's just a tricky one. Then you got Georgia at home. That's a loss.
Yep.
You got South Carolina. You got at Tennessee, rivalry, big rivalry. You got at LSU, Oklahoma, and the Iron Bowl. So it could. It's a grasp. It could be Wisconsin. It could be Georgia 2. It could be Tennessee 3. Oh, Missouri. Missouri's at home though. 4. LSU 6. I mean, there's 6 possible losses on Alabama's slate. I think if you want to take the possibilities out, I mean, I still think they can go to Tennessee and win. I think Tennessee will not be as good as they've been in the past this year. That's the 5th one.
Nico starting this year.
Yeah. Iamaleava.
Yeah. You go ahead and try to pronounce that. I'm good.
Yeah, Oklahoma, I think, is a win, even though it's at home. I think this will be I think Oklahoma will, and that's another show where we're gonna do what we think the records will be. But I think Oklahoma is a 7-5 SEC team this year, so I think they might win. But 4 teams. I mean, I think Missouri, I think Georgia, I think Ole Miss, which brings us into our next part of the topic. So, Lane Kiffin, SEC Coach of the Year. I mean, a lot of people have Lane and the boys doing some damage in the SEC this year. They have the incredible portal. So what is this? But my thing is this what Lane has done this year is this is the year that Lane Kiffin has to make his namesake. You have waited so long after the USC, rejuvenation of Lane Kiffin. He goes, he coaches under Saban, he butts heads with Saban, right? And then he heads off to Ole Miss. He gets beat by Saban, pretty roughly every year. But he's done some great things outside of those games. He's built an offense. He's had some great offenses, but his defenses have always struggled. Pete Golding is supposed to be the golden child, no pun intended, to fix that. Literally. They've got a lot of defensive position changes happening on the defense this year. We've got a lot of studs coming Golding's way. If the defense is not better this year, Pete Golding is fired. Because if you can't do better than what you did the last 2 years with the defensive studs that you got through the portal and the amount of NIL money that you threw at them, you deserve to be fired. But is this Lane Kiffin's? If it's not SEC Coach of the Year, what is Lane Kiffin? Is he a pretender, or is he just? He's a great offensive coach.
Lane. I like Lane.
Why do you like Lane?
He cracks me up. I mean. As a person, I think he's hilarious. As a coach, I think he's on his way. I think the only thing stopping him from possibly getting Coach of the Year this year in the SEC is Kirby running that gauntlet undefeated.
I agree.
Because our schedule is ridiculous. And if Kirby takes us undefeated through that whole schedule, I think he gets it. But I think if we lose if we lose a game or stumble somewhere, I think that kind of opens the door for him, because I think Ole Miss is going to be definitely the number 2 in the SEC this year. I think that's who we're playing in Atlanta.
And that means we play them twice.
Yep.
Interesting. I like Ole Miss this year. I will tell you that what's scary for Lane is I think this is his make or break year. I think they re-signed him. They gave him more money, obviously at the fret of losing him to Alabama. Just at the when they breathed his way after Saban left, and nobody knows, right? Nobody really can tell us if Lane got a call. I know his agent,
gone, man.
But what's that?
I don't think he would have gone.
You don't think he got the call?
I think he got the call. I don't think he wanted to go. I think he was probably the first or second choice. I think he was, but I don't think he wanted that job, man. I'm telling you, it takes some kind of man to follow Nick Saban, like somebody who isn't established with the name like Lane Kiffin or Dabo or somebody like that who's putting their rep on the line. This is a guy who doesn't have a rep, who is coming in. I mean, he does. He has a small, tiny rep, but he doesn't have like he doesn't have the experience in the SEC or coaching, as Lane and then. So I don't know. I like Lane.
I'm going to tell you that now that I look at this Ole Miss schedule, I'm 100% on that Ole Miss bandwagon. I agree with you. Because this right here, you're right. It will take. They will have to beat Georgia for Lane to receive it, but they get Georgia at home. Good news is if they're that deep in the season, it will not knock Georgia out of the playoffs. It might put them in a rematch versus Georgia, possibly. I don't know. We're looking way ahead though, too far. But I will tell you what is very present in my face right now is Furman, Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, University of Kentucky, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi State. What?
Wow.
How did Ole Miss get that? I ain't even and it's probably because we haven't looked into these yet because we haven't started looking into the season and things of that nature. But I 100% agree with you that there's only one technically there's only I got Ole Miss at 10.5 wins.
Where's that LSU game at?
LSU game is at home.
Oh, there you go.
LSU at home, Oklahoma. No, I'm sorry. It's in Death Valley. Your home games are Furman, Middle Tennessee, Georgia Southern, Kentucky, Mississippi State. I'm glad I didn't get tickets to the I purchased my tickets for Mississippi State at home this year, but I'm glad I didn't get the Ole Miss game to go on the road because they'll be super psyched for that one because that's the only big game they have in Hotty Toddyville.
Dude, that would be a game to go and go out there for game day because game day is going to be there.
Right.
That might be an experience to go experience their,
Yeah, because you could have 2 undefeated teams that night.
Yeah.
You could, like you said, there's going to have to be a gauntlet to be ran, but you could have 2 undefeated teams at that point in time. It's interesting, man. Very interesting. Here's another question I'll throw out there for you. I think Lane Kiffin, I agree with you 100%. I think Lane Kiffin, either way, it's make or break for him. I think if he doesn't have a good year, now you got the question marks. I don't think you have the question marks of is he the right coach for Ole Miss. I think he will start getting the whole, okay, like, are you making the right calls at what's around you? I continue to say that I don't like Pete Golding. Pete Golding can't say that he didn't have SEC talent on the defense. They averaged giving up around 34 points. Good. What? Like, I don't even want to pull those statistics, but when your offense is in the top 3 in production and your defense is in the bottom 3 in production, you're not going to win many games. No. You're just not. He's not the answer.
They didn't have a lot of guys last year. But, like, again, you're saying, that it's not like the man didn't have talent at Alabama. He had Nick Saban talent at Alabama and still wasn't great, apparently. Yeah.
I think Lane has to do well this year. I really do. I don't say hot seat, but I just don't know if I can take Lane serious. A recruit's not going to take Lane seriously. He's a people's coach.
Making the playoffs is enough?
Yeah, he can make the playoffs, but
do you think that's enough to keep him off the hot seat next year?
I don't think
they have to go deep into the playoffs.
I don't think he's on the hot seat either way. I think Lane Kiffin. They signed him. They re-signed him for I think he's 4 or 5 years, whatever. Gave him a raise. I think he's definitely in it for at least. I think he's at Ole Miss for at least 2 more years without any. As long as he wins, when I say wins, as long as he gets 7-8 wins the next 2 years, he falls out of the. I'll be honest with you. Even though I was calling for Jimbo Fisher's head, I thought it would happen. I don't think it was the right move for Texas A&M. You didn't have the guy. So now you're sitting here and you don't have – I don't think Mike Elko is the guy, and you can prove me wrong. I'll go back and put this show back on and say I was wrong, but I don't think Mike Elko is the guy. So that's the guy that you're like, I'm going to pay Jimbo Fisher his entire salary, and I'm going to pay Mike Elko's salary because this is the right time. I don't think it was the right time. I would have much rather rode – what's that?
I think that was who they could afford after they paid off Jimbo, honestly. I think that's what they could afford. I don't think they could afford to go snatch anybody else.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I just think you'd much rather ride the PR wave of Jimbo Fisher. Is it time to go? Maybe you don't. Maybe you have that. Maybe you have something in your back pocket. It's not like. I think it was who was it? Damon Geary was the coach, the interim. It's not like they didn't have anything in the back ready to go. Like, you could have waited, gave him 5-6 games into this year, I do think that people might hate this. Grant Adams may hate this, but Bobby Petrino, he did well with the quarterback room last year. I think he did well with the offense. I think we did as much as they could with the offense. I just think the team as a whole was missing chemistry, was missing culture, was missing just what it takes to win. Yeah.
That's on the head ball coach.
I thought Petrino was a great hire. I thought he did a great job with the offense last year. I mean, Connor Wakeman went down, and then you got, he was dealt a weird hand. I don't know. How about this one? USC loses 4 games versus top 25 teams.
Oh,
yes or no?
I hate Lincoln Riley. Yeah,
dude.
I believe
I saw this question, and I was like, I wonder what the betting line would be, and I would take it 100%. I'll tell you another thing that really blows my mind. I don't want to go too far off this because we're getting ready to close out the show, but Juju, Julian Lewis, man, I really hope we can flip this guy. I think it will all depend on just his visits during the year, when games are going on, and his recruitment during the vital parts of this year. Because I think he committed to USC when he was very young. I think USC, he had a lot of names that were visiting him and talking to him and calling him. And what you can do with recruitment in NIL nowadays just is crazy. And the big, the big deal of going out to California and Bronny James and LeBron out there. I mean, God knows who's making phone calls and texts to him. But I will tell you this, that is the next thing I will talk about is I do think that Lincoln Riley will be possibly in hot water by about October of next year. They paid him a lot of money, and this has nothing to do with SEC football or Georgia, but
running from the SEC.
But he was running from the SEC, and there's a key recruit that I think needs to come to the fold for Georgia. That is probably our next great Stetson Bennett style, where he gives that threat of great arm, great legs, elusiveness. He's got it all, man. Like Juju is the one that I want. Like I haven't been nuts about a quarterback since I was a kid with Matthew Stafford. But I'm nuts about this guy, man. I've seen him on tape. There's a reason why they made him reclassify. He was coming into his junior year this year. He had a whole another 2 years to play football. I mean, he's that grown right now. And I think if Lincoln Riley doesn't watch out, he's going to lose a lot more in the portal. He's going to lose a lot of games. He's going to lose his job, and he's going to lose one of the biggest recruits to come out to USC. I've been trying this whole time to look at the schedule. So 4 games against top 25 teams. So they open up in the Vegas Kickoff Classic versus LSU. So he can't run from SEC too long. So he opens up against LSU. They will definitely be the underdog in that game, I think. Michigan is on your schedule. Wisconsin is on your schedule. At Wisconsin. Remember, they're the Big Ten this year, by the way. Washington at Washington is depleted. Notre Dame.
They left it.
Notre Dame, Nebraska. So Notre Dame's going to be ranked. Who's our ranked team? Notre Dame. Oh, Penn State. Penn State,
Notre Dame, Michigan, LSU. Boom.
LSU. There they are. 4 teams, top 25. Lincoln Riley. It ain't looking good for him, man. It ain't looking good for him.
Well, I bet you Bear Alexander's like, man, I should have never left.
Yeah, well, Bear Alexander, I'm not gonna bring a kid down, but I will say that you can see the character of him and how he acted in situations out at USC and games and things of that nature. He didn't fit the culture of Georgia, and he went out there and he tried that, and he does fit the culture of USC. It's very unput together, unfinished out there, and it shows tremendously. Let's do one more.
Lets the players do whatever they want.
Yeah, Lincoln. Yeah, because he wants to. I mean, he's a player's coach. I would say to some extent Lane did too, but when Lane drops the hammer, they all turn. I don't think Lincoln Riley's dropping. He ain't dropping no hammer. You're in South LA, man. Like people that go out to USC, like they're either ballers and they're kids that have raw talent that need to be coached. but it doesn't always transfer to the field. So like you got to earn your salary. It ain't just calling plays. You got to earn your salary. You chose to be a head coach for a reason, not an offensive coordinator. And so that's what his job is. So as we close tonight, Fish, those are really fun questions, man. I mean, I think it's fun going outside a little bit. We'll do that a little bit more. But most excited, obviously, spring game around the corner. We could talk all night long about Georgia football. We could talk all night long about things outside of Georgia football that still relate to Georgia football. But the one thing I will say in closing tonight is we will also learn a lot about the DNA and the culture of our team and how rooted we are in Kirby in that area, because that's one thing in closing tonight that we've been hearing a lot about, right? Raheem Morris comes to the Falcons. You're hearing a lot about teams, Georgia State, Del McGee, things that people are saying about the University of Georgia, the Philadelphia Eagles, a lot of NFL teams that are talking about the footprint of what those Georgia players are bringing to their team. And the one thing you continue to hear is those guys know how to win, and those guys know how to practice, and those guys know how to get the best out of each other and get the best out of their team. And challenge their team. And so I'm interested to see this year if that footprint continues with the losses of McClendon and Del McGee and obviously Fran Brown in the secondary. I mean, we took some losses this year on both sides. But final thoughts for you, Fish, tonight?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we fall off much. I don't think much changes. I'm just ready for spring ball, ready for G-Day. I mean, I'm just ready. Like the past 2 months, January and February went by so fast, man. I'm hoping March, April, and May go by just as fast. I'm ready for media days.
Yeah.
Ooh, won't get here fast enough.
I agree,
I'm
man.
definitely excited.
I totally agree, bro. Well, listen, always a pleasure. Always awesome to talk Georgia football. We're going to have some actual stuff to talk about, man. I mean, we're talking about good stuff, but some key stuff. We're going to get to see some guys out there in pads. We're going to get to see them hitting. We're going to get to see them doing some things, man. And so I'm super excited about that. Yeah. But Fish, always a pleasure. This time next week, we will be about a week out. We may look at like projected lineups coming up, but for G-Day, what we have coming into spring practice, things of that nature. Who's healthy? Do we have anybody not coming in healthy? Be interested to see if Branson Robinson's going to be held out a little bit. Is he a full go? Is he a half go? What's he going to be doing? So a lot of interesting topics heading into G-Day that we will cover next week. So look forward to catching the live next week. If you have not done so, go and follow us on YouTube. Go click like and follow on Dogs Down South. If you have not followed on Facebook, Dogs Down South. Also, there's a TikTok page, Dogs Down South. Go check us out. We got some short videos, short things that go on around talking about Georgia football. Some clips, excerpts from this show tonight. Also, if you were not able to join the live tonight, Apple Podcasts, 24 hours from now, it has all of our past episodes, and it will have this one. So even if somebody missed it tonight and you want to go back and catch it, you can go catch it, episode 6 on Apple Podcasts. But for myself, Ted Turner, and the Fish, Adam Fisher, we hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next time. But for now, good night, everybody, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.